Okay, great. I'm glad to be here this morning, and thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. We're glad you're here, and I have an amazing guest today. I have Steve Levine, who is the CEO of AtmosAir Solutions. And Steve, how are you doing today?
Doing great today. Can't be better.
Awesome. Steve is joining us down in Boca Raton, Florida. Is that correct?
That's right. Second home down here, and love it down here. Florida's beautiful.
It is. It is very nice. I'm from there and live in the mountains now, and I'm cool with that too. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. So Steve's company, AtmosAir, if you're listening and not familiar, they specialize in creating healthy indoor air environments, which seems to be a topic that's pretty much on a lot of people's minds today, huh, Steve?
It's a big deal. Indoor air quality today. It's probably top of the mindset for everybody because not only did we come off of a huge pandemic, but the most recent issues around wildfires has created a real new understanding about what good indoor air quality is as compared to what we're seeing outside.
Yeah, and it's funny. I had Tony Abate, your CTO, on last week, and we were talking about, to me, like I've been in the industry for about 25 years now. And to me, IQ is one of those things that no one really pays a lot of attention to until everyone's paying a lot of attention to it because there's like a pandemic or wildfires, it's like kind of like out of sight, out of mind. But, so super important, as design engineers and HVAC sales guys, we've got a knowledge of where we're at as far as what we're doing with IQ, as far as what ASHRAE's doing, with the tools out there to not only monitor the indoor air quality, but then to take action. So to me, it's almost two different things. It's like, do we know what's going on in our building? One, that would be the monitoring, and two, what is the solution to that? And that's what that's why I'm glad you're here, because that's what you guys do for a living. And I love to talk about. So, IQ is important in every building, right? From our homes to
Sure.
what I call standard commercial applications, which is like schools and things like that, office buildings, and then you have these really niche applications which you all get involved in. Cruise ships, trains, casinos, air terminals, and airplanes. I'd like to talk about some of that, and a lot of I think, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of the problem and solution in those applications is very similar in other applications too. I just think it's really neat to talk about the niche stuff. So why don't we talk a little bit about, go ahead and, let the listeners know a little bit more about what your company specializes in, and then we can start with the cruise ships, because that one is fascinating to me. So
Sure. Well, it's the history of the company back 20 years now. We started as an air testing company, so we would go into these larger venues and we would actually test air quality. And there's 11 different parameters of air quality. We would take the readings and send the reports to the labs, and then show them to the customers. And good or bad, this is what your air quality was. So we had to see how we could potentially fix it and create a solution for it. So we looked at different filters and UV lights and electrostatic air cleaners, and we founded this technology in Sweden. It's called bipolar ionization. We brought it over to the United States, and we used it as a solution to improve air quality that we would test inside a building. So we could really show a before and after dynamic to creating better, cleaner, healthier air. And interestingly enough, we said, how do we, as a business, look to take this out to the business world? And we started in sports, believe it or not. We figured, let's take this to all the professional sports teams, and let's look at their training facilities and try to create cleaner, healthier environments in their training facilities. And that led us into stadiums. And now you're taking a look at these big, large venues where our technology creates these negative and positive ions. And when you put those ions into a large space, they agglomerate particles and spores. So they pull these particles and spores out of the air. They break down odors and VOCs, and they attack different bacteria, viruses, and germs. and now taking these to large venues where you're talking about 60, 70,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
We use that business model to do professional sports teams. That led us to colleges, that led us to schools,
Mm-hmm.
and that led us to the consumer. So you say cruise ships, which is kind of neat. How did we get to cruise ships? Well, during the pandemic, the cruise ships were the first ones affected. If you remember that big
Wow. I don't
cruise
remember
ship
that. Yeah.
in Japan just hanging out, there was a cruise ship that was, where people got very sick and had to be
Mm.
removed from the ship. And so cruise ships started looking at our technology. And one of the largest ones in the country, NCL, Norwegian Cruise Lines, came to us and said, can you do a pilot on one of our ships in Italy
Wow.
this week? And we went out there and did it. And they loved the results. They brought in their technical people to measure the results. And they said, how fast can you outfit all 26 of our cruise ships
Jeez.
around the world? And it was an amazing project. We did all 26 cruise ships in about 120 days.
Oh my gosh.
And it was and today they've had the systems in for now almost 3 years, and they love it. And they're recommending us to all different cruise ship lines. And the coolest thing about it was I'm in the office one day. I get a phone call from my wife, and she says, you guys are on TV. You're on. Richard Branson
Oh my
from
gosh.
from Virgin Atlantic is speaking about your technology and what they did to put on all the Virgin ships to make them healthier, safer, and cleaner, and as a proactive measure.
Oh
And
my gosh. That's
you
so
know,
cool.
it
Yeah.
was unbelievable to get that kind of press because we were just trying to help people and create a better environment. So cruise ships turned out to be a very big opportunity for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'd like to dive into that a little bit deeper because that's just really cool to me. So Richard Branson owns Norwegian Cruise Lines, is that, or does
Well,
he have his own line?
yeah, he has his own line. Richard Branson
Okay.
owns the Virgin
Oh,
cruise
okay.
lines.
They've got a
And,
cruise line too. Okay. Gotcha.
yeah, and it's called Virgin Voyages, and so they have four cruise ships, and they've outfitted already three of them. We're in
Mm-hmm.
the process of outfitting the fourth, but they've actually, went on Good Morning America and the Today Show and
Mm-hmm.
CBS News, and they told everybody, come back to travel with us again, as trying to get people back from COVID and getting back out into the world, that we've done a number of things. Our technology was only one of them, but
Mm-hmm.
we've done a number of things to make our cruise ships healthier and safer. And so, and NCL's done it in all their ships, and the other cruise lines like Carnival and Royal Caribbean are starting to do it. And
That's
it's
so
really
cool.
unbelievable because when you can take care of large venues, again, like we did in sports stadiums, like we do in large office facilities, it really is gratifying where you can help protect a lot of people,
Right. And you go into a
in one
scenario
place.
where it's a big problem. You go there, you do the testing, you have the solution, you're actually measuring. I love that. So walk me through, like, you're sitting at your desk one day, the president of Norwegian Cruise Lines calls you, or how did that happen? And
Yeah,
then,
it was really cool. It was
mm-hmm.
um, Norwegian was doing a health and safety test with another cruise line that didn't go forward at the time. And they basically said, how fast can you come out and put your system in one of our ships and
Mm-hmm.
let our technology people and hygiene people test your technology and see
Right.
if this is a solution that they would like to use. And I would say, well, how about next week? And so they said, if you can get out here on Thursday and get
Wow.
it installed for the weekend, um, and we really moved quickly. We have a couple of partners in the cruise ship
Mm-hmm.
installation business. So they helped us get it done. We shipped the equipment over there right away, and the fast turnaround was we were negotiating for their whole fleet. It was
Wow.
unbelievable.
So where was the first ship you retrofit you tested on? Where was that ship? Do you remember?
It was outside of Naples in Italy.
Naples, Italy. So you go there. Now, I've not been on a cruise before, honestly. There's a lot going on a cruise. I know that. There's a lot of fun going on there. I know people have cabins there, right?
Yep.
And then you have common areas, and a lot of it's just open to the outside. So tell me, where did it go? Did it go in the actual rooms? And what type of do they have fan coils in each room, or how does this HVAC system set up?
So they have typical big central air systems
Okay.
throughout the big common areas, and then they have fan coils in all the individual rooms.
Chill water fan coils.
Yeah, what they
Gotcha.
decided to do was, let's take care of all the big assembly type spaces. Let's take care of all the common areas, the dining room, the fitness facility, the theater areas,
Hmm.
and really create a safe haven throughout all the common areas. And that's what they did. So it was a very large installation, and on multiple ships. We put our systems into the central air system
Hmm.
on the supply side of the air so that we're delivering ions effectively to the target area, because those ions are what do all the work,
Hmm.
whether it be pulling the contaminants out of the air or off of surfaces, and actually going right to the heart of a bacteria, a virus, a germ, and deactivating that. So very
You're
um,
going right to the issue,
exactly.
rather than trying
So
to bring it back to a filter.
yeah, and cruise ships, they do a great job on cleaning and scrubbing and whatnot. But air quality changes all the time. So
Hmm.
unless you're continually disinfecting and continually sanitizing, and that's what our technology does. So it's a real proactive, real time solution. And they also put monitors on the ships. I know what fast forward to Virgin. What they liked about the technology is that we put these sensors in place so that they can really see the air quality in real
Hmm.
time, and they're measuring particle levels at PM 2.5 size. They're measuring TVOCs. They're measuring CO2 levels. They're measuring humidity levels. And what they're basically trying to do is create, make sure that the air quality is comfortable, but that all their contaminant levels are where they need to be.
Hmm.
And they can see that visually with our
With the
sensors
monitors.
today. Exactly.
So on going back to the original cruise ship test, you go out there, you put your stuff in, and you said they had their own inspectors that were monitoring the results of that. Do you remember what they were looking at to do
Sure.
that, or?
Yeah, they're basically looking at particulate. They're looking at total volatile organic compounds.
Hmm.
Things like formaldehyde. Odors specifically. And then they're looking at the different bacteria, viruses, and bacteria levels specifically. I mean, you can literally take a bacterial swab before the system's installed,
Hmm.
send it off to the lab, take another bacterial swab once the system is installed, and you'll see the amazing difference, with the system, without the system. Typically it's in the 90-95% range. Again,
Right.
because you're continually bombarding the surfaces in the air with these negative and positive ions that, when you go to the mountain environments and you're in that clean, fresh, pristine air, there's a natural conductivity in the mountains, and that
Hmm.
conductivity is caused by these negative and positive ions. So it's very plentiful in the mountains, but as you come down the mountain, the ions have been depleted because of pollution, because of emissions, when there's lots of people, carpets, machines around, the ion content is much less. So our technology increases the ion level, never going to make it like a mountaintop, but
Hmm.
we're going to increase it 3 to 4 times and let those ions attack, what's in the air. And just like these little Pac-Men, they're going to search out, find that contaminant, make it bigger, make it heavier, and pull it out of the air, filter it out
Right.
of the air much faster.
So I have a question for you. So as you were explaining that, I was thinking, a lot of our listeners are consultants. They're design and consulting engineers, and obviously they work for some small owners, they work for some big owners. And one of the things, if you have a filter in a system, a regular filter, you can see the dirt. You can see it when it gets dirty, it's working. You can see
Sure.
the pressure drop across it, it's working. So what do you say to a client, an engineer who may be working with an owner, maybe an owner's listening to this who's got, working at a large college, he runs a large college. What do you say to him? Like, how do you show them it works without having to retrofit the entire campus or the entire building? Like, do you recommend they try it on one section and then do the swabbing like you're talking about? Or do you have testing you can help them with, or third party testing? Or what do you recommend for that?
Yeah, so I recommend a good pilot. You take a scenario. I just
A
did one right
pilot.
there.
That's what I was looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the things we just did, I'll use an example right down the street from me in Boca Raton. There's
Hmm.
the Boca Hotel there, and they had 2 rooms, and they wanted us to put our systems in those rooms. But before they did, they wanted to take readings of the 11 different elements of air quality and get a good baseline.
Right.
Then
Did they do that over a week's time or a day, or do you remember?
I think they did it over a 24-hour day
Gotcha.
to get a baseline. And so now they got those baseline results. Then they put the system in. We put these ions products, depending on the scale. In a hotel, they're much smaller for a 400 square foot room.
Hmm.
We use our FC 400. We put it into the supply side of the fan coil, and then we let the system on for 24 hours. And then the testing devices stay in for 3 days. So you're able to measure, on the third day, the fourth day, the fifth day, the dynamic of what your baseline was versus your result
Right.
over a 72-hour period of time. And what you typically will see there is less particles in the space, because typically our technology, when you can get an 86% removal rate by using the technology, that's pretty specific. So and then you're going to reduce any total volatile organic compounds by, in the 80s to 90 percentile. But the biggest opportunity, I think, because a lot of spaces are filtering really well, but they're not able to attack the bacteria, the virus, the germs. So these swabs that we take and we send out to EMSL and then do a before and then do an after,
Hmm.
you're able to get those results back from the lab. And the results from the lab don't lie. It's there it is in black and white.
Hmm.
Was 90% more of a bacteria issue than before than it was after. And so we're making a positive improvement. And that's the kind of, as I mentioned in the beginning, we started as an air testing company. So
Hmm.
we're all about air testing, but a lot of companies, a lot of clients want to do third party testing. And we welcome that. Do that third party
Sure.
testing
Yeah.
and you'll be able to see the differences yourself. But give the testing period, between 48 and 72 hours to really see the results. And now you can take that what was invisible and make it visible. And I think what everybody's seeing today is that there's sensors that are able to do this in a real-time basis.
Mm-hmm.
But when we do a pilot, we like to really take this gray wolf monitoring equipment and really get really to the microscopic level, right? And
Is that a high quality monitor, Gray Wolf? I'm not familiar with the brands.
yeah, gray wolf is, I think, the best on the market. I mean, it's very expensive. They're $20,000 a monitor, but
Right,
at
right.
the end of the day, they're very accurate, and they're third party, and they're able to tell the story. And we use them. We just deploy them when we do pilots all over the place, different
Gotcha.
type of jobs.
So that's a great recipe if someone wants to try it out, right? If they got a large campus, try out a classroom or two, get your third party testing, and let the results speak for themselves. If you want to move forward a little bit at a time or the whole building. So cool. I like it.
Well, yeah, one of our big clients, we did results when the whole virus thing came out, and we went to Microchem and did the results in the lab, and it came out unbelievable. We were able to reduce coronavirus by 99.992% inside of 30 seconds with Microchem's testing, the way they tested in the lab. And so one of our customers challenged that, big, large customer, Fortune 500 customer, said, look, if we're going to do our 70 buildings, we want to test it in our own lab. And they
Mm-hmm.
did, and they came back with the same results. So, it's great to have lab results, but it's also great to have field results, because it's a different dynamic. And like I said, we've been at this 20 years, and we're all about testing,
Mm-hmm.
validation, verification. That's how we do what we do.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I forget sometimes that you started out in the air testing business rather than the bipolar ionization and that type of business. So that's interesting. That's a good background to have if you're going to do what you guys do and make the products you make. So
Well, it's also, for us, we don't like to put in any system that we don't test and validate,
mm-hmm.
and yeah, the sensors are now able to do this on a real time basis. But 20 years ago, when you didn't have sensors, you had to do a lot of before and after testing. And,
Mm-hmm.
we were always about the testing and always about the validation. That's what separates us as a company, quite frankly.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. So then just a few more applications we can touch on maybe real quick. Aviation we talked about briefly, and then trains, like inside a train, or is it the train terminals, or both? Or you want to talk
Well,
about any of those?
yeah, I do. I think, travel is
Mm-hmm.
exploding right now, right? I started to talk about hospitality. We looked
Is
at
that
cruise.
because of you know, everyone's been pent up for years now that they're traveling a lot, or what do you think that's from?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
people want to go out, live for the day, and go on vacation, see the world. And you know, airlines are unbelievably busy. The air terminals,
Mm-hmm.
airports themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we do all the terminals at LAX airport, and so when they started with this technology, it was about the planes idling outside,
Mm.
and that J4 fuel that might be
The
seeping in,
odor.
the odor, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And you got jet fumes, you got food odor, you got people odor and whatnot. And so how do we attack that and create a better environment? Now it's all about the client experience. We actually just did an airport in Richmond where they put up on a dashboard, their air quality results. Think about that, right? Lots of people, everything is all about the client experience, and
Mm.
they're telling the client in real time what their air quality results are, and putting that on a public dashboard.
Mm.
That's where the world is going. So if you can really create the cleaner, healthier environment by adding technologies like ours. We're not, again, the silver bullet, but people are doing lots of work to improve overall space, and filters do a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Our technology just complements a filter. ASHRAE did a study not too long ago where they said when you take a MERV 13 filter and you add the DVD bipolar ionization technology, it will actually take it to a HEPA-like result.
Mm-hmm.
And now, if you're doing that and you can monitor that and measure that and show that, the client and the employee that works at that airport, they're feeling better.
Yeah.
They're in a better, safer, healthier environment. And that's what it's all about. So, yes, airports are definitely looking at the technology, and we're doing a great job as they're renovating and spending so much money. The government is putting so much money right now into infrastructure in airports, and that's a huge, huge opportunity for us to better those facilities. And then, as you said, trains. You can't, our goal is planes, trains, and automobiles, right? Brick and mortar aside, we want to be, when you're in your home and you're breathing clean air and you get in your car and you travel to your business, we want to be that whole ecosystem. And, at the end of the day, we're doing some projects with some of the largest transit authorities right now where they're actually putting the technology in the train cars themselves.
Wow.
So we've miniaturized the technology from being able to put a tube or many tubes into a 2 million square foot building to put it into a train car and eventually to put it in an automobile. So that's our goal and objective is to, just create cleaner, healthier, safer places to live, travel, and we're gratified every day. We think we're changing the world every day and making it a better place. And, we never talked about a lot of these facilities are all concerned about reducing the carbon footprint, reducing energy costs. Just think about if you clean the air so well and you're able to recycle cleaner air, you might save some energy at the same time. So
lower your outdoor air intake, basically.
Could do that. You could do that. I'm a proponent of clean the air first and foremost, and then if you can use some recycling opportunities to help save energy, why not? But the key is how do we make more productive people, reduce absenteeism,
right,
keep people healthier. Our technology is proactive in that way. And when you start implementing it in these various areas, I mean, we're talking about the fun stuff, the cruise ships, the, travel, airports. I think there's no interior environment that we can't help. And so we're just excited to be in a great position to help a lot of people today.
Oh, that's great. And I love your passion about that. And as you were talking about that, I forget sometimes that, I always think of it from the standpoint of occupant health, which is obviously very important. But, there's the whole other side that it's actually good for business too, because of your employee retention and your customers are happier, your employees are happier. And so many good side effect benefits of creating healthy indoor air environments, no matter what you're doing, what technology you're doing. But it's just a byproduct of that. It's just incredible.
Quick story. I was just in New York at, Turner Construction is a huge construction company. And we just installed our systems maybe, 3 months ago. And it was a directive. How do we get our people back to the office, feeling good about coming back to the office 5 days a week, not just, and getting everything back to normal. And then the last week or two, we had those wildfires come in. And when you go into Turner's offices, you see their dashboard next to the reception area and all the sensors. We have must be 16 sensors in different parts of their building. But when the when the wildfires were there, the outdoor air in New York, the air quality index was over 250,
Mm,
and you can measure that, through the weather stations. In their office was only a 30. So it really
wow.
showed the difference of outdoor air versus indoor air that's being properly filtered. And the filters did a great job, and our technology certainly helped and created that even better environment. So, that's a small story of what we're seeing on a daily basis of ways we can help people, improve air quality.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Steve, for joining us today. I hope you'll come back sometime soon. And thanks for all you're doing to keep us healthy. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tony. Thanks for the opportunity. Have a great day.